seats. Okay, thank you for... I'm going to try this one more time. Please take your seats and be quiet. We're going to start. So tonight is Monday, March 25th, 2024. I'd like to welcome everybody to tonight's town board meeting in the town of Amherst. This evening, we're going to hold tonight's meeting in memory of Jane Woodward, council member for 15 years from 1991 to 2005. Member and former chair of the planning board from 1982 to 1990. Jane passed away this past week, and certainly did a lot in the town, for the town, and with our volunteer committees and this town board. So with that, I would ask everybody please rise for a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I would ask our town clerk to please come up. To please call the roll.
Supervisor Copa.
Here.
Deputy Supervisor Lavin.
Present.
Councilmember Berger.
Here.
Councilmember Zuccala.
Here.
And Councilmember Marinucci.
Here.
First item on our agenda is the approval of minutes from Monday, March 11th, 2024. A motion to adopt those as they appeared.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have a couple of public hearings this evening, the second of which is Resolution 210, and it's been asked to be adjourned to June 10th. So if you're here for the public hearing on 46, 54, 60, 68, 74, and 84 South Linden Street, we had a request to adjourn it. We're adjourning it all the way to June 10th. I don't know why the petitioners requested that adjournment, but we're not going to be holding that public hearing this evening. So we do have a public hearing 173 this evening. I'm going to ask our town attorney to please read our rules of order prior to the public hearings.
Thank you. With regard to public participation at town board meetings, there will be several opportunities throughout the night for you to address the town board. I'll review with you the town board's rules of order with regard to decorum, public hearings, and public expression. For your convenience, there are copies of the full rules of order available for your review in the container attached to the entry door of this chamber. There you'll also be able to find copies of tonight's agenda, the consent agenda. The rules of order and full agenda packets are also available on the town's website. With regard to decorum, decorum must be maintained throughout tonight's meeting. Pursuant to the rules of order, speakers shall address the board as a whole and refrain from partisan political commentary, personal, impertinent, slanderous, or profane remarks, catcalls, noisemakers, or other outbursts that disrupt the order of the meeting. Any person who makes such remarks or otherwise disrupts the meeting with loud outbursts, shouting, threats, or otherwise disruptive behavior shall, at discretion of the supervisor or after a motion and majority consensus of the board be ruled out of order. With regard to public hearings, there is one public hearing scheduled for tonight. The petitioner may present for up to 15 minutes. Following the petitioner, a neighborhood representative or their attorney may have 15 minutes to respond. Thereafter, other speakers at public hearings may speak only once and comment for up to 3 minutes. The town clerk will ring a bell once to let you know you have 30 seconds to finish. The town clerk will ring a bell a second time when your time is finished. Written comments may be submitted at any time prior to the close of the hearing and will be included as part of the official record for the hearing. With regard to public expression, there are 2 opportunities for you to address the board with comments on topics not covered within the public hearings scheduled for tonight. Per the rules of order, the purpose of public expression is to allow opportunity for the public to formally communicate with the board on any matter involving Amherst. This is not designed to be a conversation with the board, but an opportunity for the public to express their opinion on issues that the board will cover during that meeting or to bring attention to an issue involving Amherst. Speakers may comment for up to 3 minutes. Again, the clerk will ring a bell once when you have 30 seconds remaining and twice when your time is finished. There is a sign-up sheet at the podium for you to indicate your interest in speaking. Once those that have signed up are finished, the supervisor will ask if there are additional speakers who would like to comment. A reminder that decorum must be maintained. All remarks shall be addressed to the board as a whole and not to any single member thereof. In the event that the speaker's inquiry is urgent or their comment is inaccurate, the supervisor or a town board member may respond for up to 1 minute after closing public expression. Thank you for your adherence to these rules of order.
Okay, with that, I'm going to motion to open the first public hearing, Resolution 173.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. This is a public hearing on 1565, 1575 to 1659, and 1641 to 1703 Niagara Falls Boulevard, requesting a modification to amend the SEQR findings. Go ahead.
Good evening. James Baglioli. I'm an attorney for Benderson Development, 570 Delaware Avenue, Buffalo, New York, for the applicant. Next slide, please. I know the board is familiar with this property. We call it the Boulevard. It is the property in yellow. To the west is Niagara Falls Boulevard. Up to the north, we have Ridgely Road, which goes to North Bailey, and then Romney Road. It's fully bordered by roads on all 4 sides. It's currently a zoned shopping center. It maintains over 700,000 square feet of shopping center. That's a mix of restaurants and retail and personal service uses. It has probably over 40 tenants at this point and over 3,000 parking stalls. We own the property in yellow. We own everything in blue around it. So as the board is familiar with, this is going to be redeveloped with the new Costco project. We're proposing new offices and a warehouse in this site, and we recently redid this site with a new TJ Maxx concept. The neighboring uses, okay. We can go from there. Next slide, Tim, that's fine. This is what we're proposing. Usually I don't read a slide, but I will read this one. We're proposing when this project was initially approved, there were secret findings. The property was developed differently around it back then. It started in 1996, so it is pretty old. We're proposing to remove the signage restrictions on Romney Road, Ridgely Road, and North Bailey Ave for the rear building facades. And we're proposing to remove the limits on the number of pole signs, pylon signs, and ground signs on Romney Road, Ridgely Road, and North Bailey Ave. We were restricted below what's allowed by code back in when this project was originally approved. Since that time, the area has changed. We are proposing to amend those findings to provide, and I'll read it, no signage shall be placed northerly within 400 feet of the southerly edge of Ridgely Road, right away from a point at the intersection of the center lines of Ridgely Road and Niagara Falls Boulevard between 500 and 1,500 feet easterly, and no pole or ground signs shall be permitted along Ridgely Road beyond 300 feet of the eastern edge of Niagara Falls Boulevard, and that message signs are prohibited along any of these roadways adjacent to development. This excludes directional signs at the driveways or other traffic control signs that do not have any logos or advertising. Next slide, please. I have a drawing which represents this. So basically, currently, the restriction does not allow signs here and here, where the purple and red are. What we're proposing is to amend it to allow signs where the purple is on both sides of the road. That is because we now operate this as a large contiguous shopping center, and we are working on redoing the facades on the back of the buildings. I have an example, next slide. And we're preempted this was this is our LL Bean section of the site. We redid the entire back of the building to make it look like a front because it faces the TJ Maxx, and we're looking to carry that through, so when you're driving them, it looks like a large unified development. We own all the property these signs would face. We're not facing on any residential properties, and it have no impact. It does help in wayfinding if you've ever been to this site. It's a very large site, and getting around it, you want to know where you're going. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions from the board?
Can you go back to that map site?
Yep.
So the purple on the, right along Ridgely, right there.
Yep.
Do you own right across from that?
We own this,
Okay.
and this is a hotel, and then the rest of it.
Is single-family apartments?
That's where the residential starts, so we stopped it, so the signs will not, this restriction's still there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the board? Seeing none, I'm going to open it up to members of the audience who wish to comment on the request for amended SEQR findings. Are there any?
Hi, Allison Saygraves on Amherstdale. I would like clarification on what it means by remove limits on numbers of pole signs. I haven't sat around and thought about what the implications of unlimited poles are, but that sounds like a bit extreme. I thought this was supposed to be a multi-use, like town center and not like all commercial. So could we just get some clarification on what this actually is going to look like and what this, what the neighborhood impact is? This seems like a very open-ended request without much specificity as to the intent.
Sure. So,
Happy to answer that.
well, I mean, it isn't a change of zoning, it's only, okay, can you please respond?
The site and everything around it is its own shopping center. It doesn't allow us to do unlimited signs. We were allowed pursuant to code to put signs on all these buildings and have pylon signs. We're just looking to be allowed what's allowed by code. So your town code has signage. This site, back when it was really approved, was restricted beyond code because at that time the area was different. Now, these signs are just going to face other commercial properties actually owned by us, which tie into this, including here and this site right here. So again, with the restrictions maintained on the property, against the property we don't own and against the residential. So we're not asking for unlimited signs. We're asking what's allowed by code, which is allowable for every other commercial use in that corridor. And we're not changing any zoning. It is own shopping center. Everything abutting it is own commercial, except where the red is.
I have a follow-up question there. Do you have an example of what you mean by pole or ground sign, just for
They're on the
resident?
site now. So
Okay,
if you
you want to go back to the other picture?
I don't have any pictures of those.
Okay.
A pole or ground sign, if you drive Niagara Falls Boulevard, there's a freestanding monument sign. It has the tenant names on it. So I
I'm
would.
very familiar with this.
Yes.
I got young kids. We're there all the time.
So that would be a pole or ground sign, but your code limits those to, we get one on each road. We don't have one on each road. We only have them on Niagara Falls Boulevard.
So potentially would be a similar sign on each of these.
Especially now that you see like over here.
Yep.
This will be the Costco site. So when
Yep.
you come in through Costco and when you are coming in that way, you'll want to know what's in that shopping center.
Okay. Are there any further comments or questions from the audience? Seeing, oh, go ahead.
So you said in 1996, when it was originally zoned as such, that the property around it was different. How so, if you don't mind explaining it?
Back here, this
Yep.
used to be the campus for
Right,
UB, right? This was warehouse, all warehouse, and now it's offices, and we're going to put brand new offices there. And I don't know what this was back then. And I don't know why that restriction was put in place as far as close to the road.
And part of the justification, like in accordance with the bicentennial plan, was that a nexus can be drawn from the regulatory control of signage to the zoning ordinance that could limit the advertising ability of businesses and prevent growth. Do you feel that there's a prevention of growth at Boulevard Commons right now?
I believe that we're trying to improve the entire area by making a cohesive shopping center. We're trying to attract new tenants, and those tenants, even if you go to our next slide, which was LL Bean, part of their requirements when they did lease was that we would redo the back of the building and tie it into the shopping center across the street. And I filed this months and months ago. It's taken a while to get here, but it was a requirement. The tenants that we're getting, as we start to upgrade these to Athleta and LL Bean, there's been a change in tenancy. They're looking to have a unified development. So they're looking to have everything tied together. As I noted, it has no impact on the neighborhood. We own everything that abuts it. So we're tying it in. If this was internal roadways, these signs would be allowed to be there. They'd be allowed to face our other buildings. It's just a remnant of an old approval.
All right. Anything further from this board? Seeing nothing, I'm going to motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Next.
We can vote on it?
Not
Dan,
tonight.
we will vote. Dan, you're going to call for, we're going to set a vote for next meeting? What is that? Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to set a decision date on April 29th. Okay. Next item on the agenda is Resolution 261, which is the seeker determination. Resolution 261 is a seeker determination on 1635 North French Road, Z 2023-10. So we did have the New York State DOT submit a letter regarding the proposed street project. And I'm going to just read that into the record here. I'm reaching out to inform you of a proposed project that New York State DOT is progressing with the town of Amherst. The project includes work on Route 270 Campbell Boulevard from North French to Erie County line, and on North French Road from Campbell to the I-990. The project proposes safety and mobility improvements at the intersection of Campbell Road and North French. The project will widen the existing pavement section to add the right turn lane from North French westbound to New York 270 northbound. It will also widen the existing pavement section to 3 lanes on North French between New York 270 and Landings Drive, and lengthen the left turn lane from New York 270 southbound to North French eastbound. Shoulders along Route 270 will be widened to conform with the current department standards. In addition, the entire project corridor will be milled and surfaced with 1.5 inches of asphalt. Finally, the project would install sidewalk areas where some sidewalk exists but is not continuous, and upgrade non-compliant curb ramps to current ADA standards. New York State DOT will hold a public meeting where members of the public can come and learn about the project and give input in a couple months. Please let me know if you have any questions. So with that, the project itself, or the request for zoning change, doesn't have to be affected by it, but I think that there is a note that says that the site plan is going to have to be amended prior to site plan approval. So I'm going to motion to adopt the seeker findings and the seeker determination of 1635 North French as it appeared tonight on our agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 209 is the adoption of a local law to amend the zoning map for 1635 North French Road, Z 2023-10. I'm going to motion to adopt the local law to amend the zoning map at this time.
Second.
I would like to
Sure.
submit, per the neighborhood concerns that were regarding increased traffic due to the rezoning of this parcel, and in agreement with the recommendations of the Amherst Traffic Safety Board, as well as the Erie County Department of Environment Planning, I'd like to motion to amend the resolution to include the following language at the end of subsection 1.
Okay.
Motion to amend to include that any, and a single point of access from North French Road to the combined parcel located at 1635 and 1639 through 1641 North French. That would make the resolved clause sub 1 say that any future site plan for development of 1635 North French Road include vehicular access to the adjoining parcel at 1639, 1641 North French Road, and a single point of access from North French Road to the combined parcel located at 1635 and 1639 North French Road.
Okay, there's a motion amendment.
Second.
All in favor of the,
Wait, can we have some discussion?
sure, we can,
Um,
on the amendment.
I guess I
Okay,
have,
please.
I guess I'm questioning the amendment because that's really the purview of the planning board to review all of this. I think we can make a strong suggestion, but I think putting it as a condition is problematic. We don't know if the DOT will change its mind. We don't know what may happen along the way.
I understand, but given how close these two parcels are, I don't know if we can pull it up there, having two curb cut entrances to these parcels doesn't make sense even as it is. And so this is the time that the town board can subject the zoning and the planning board to do these changes, and this is what I'd like to encourage. There is a picture, I don't know if we can go to it.
I know
Oh,
what
okay.
it
I'm
looks
just
like.
saying.
That isn't
So-
the issue. I've
Dan,
been at all the planning board meetings.
I think that the planning board had a similar recommendation for,
They wanted one curb cut.
Yes.
That's why they wanted the
Right.
house
Okay.
parcel to connect to the commercial. If
So-
you want to limit it to one, you can probably do that, but it is also a site plan issue that can be dealt with there. If you lay the condition on the planning board, we have to adhere to it.
Yes,
it sound, it's,
so,
so the planning board had previously issued a recommended condition for one curb cut and connectivity through the neighboring parcel. So it's consistent with what the amendment has in terms of language. That's what we were discussing.
and I find that, at least in my opinion, it is worthy of putting into the local law that we're passing for this rezoning, just to ensure that everybody abides by it in the future. Right now, we have recommendations, things can change, planning board administration, our administration can change. This represents what we were expressed during the public hearing on 311, as well as what Amherst Traffic Safety said would make the most sense. And so to put that restriction in now, I don't see it as a hindrance to the authority of the zoning board as we give them that authority.
It's not the zoning board, it's the planning board.
Okay, is the parcel in question, is the petitioner here for this? Would you come forward?
This is in line with what your site plan recommendation is it not? When I asked the question during the public hearing, if there was going to be a single curb cut, I was told likely depending on where the site plan added, but that's how the site plan currently looked. So I'm not asking you to change your current site plan. Is that correct?
Let me make sure I understand exactly what you're saying. Tori Hirsch, petitioner. Good evening to the board members and also to the community. We have currently two curb cuts at 1635 North French. We're looking to give back one, shall we say, the furthest east, and just have one curb cut at 1635 North French using our west drive. And then we also have connection through 1639 through 1641 North French, where we're going to allow connection between both of the parcels of 1635 and 1639 through 1641 North French. So I believe, Angela, we are on the same page with what you're stating. We will need at least one curb cut at 1635, but otherwise we'll adjoin the parcel and make it into a 5-acre complex.
Yeah, the language in which I've proposed would allow for a singular point of access wherever you'd like it. If it's at the current 1639 cut, 1635, but one point of access to the combined parcel, which I do believe, because I did ask this question at the public hearing, was in line with what your attorney said was the current site plan. So I'm just trying to
As long as the
codify that.
parcel you're talking about is the 1-acre parcel, not the 5-acre parcel,
So-
because it's not a combined.
There are two separate parcels.
I understand, but the
There's-
language we're already adding combines them, does it not? Vehicular access to the adjoining parcel.
No.
So the issue comes up that if the parcel, you don't own both parcels?
He does.
You do own both parcels? Okay.
But they're two different zonings, so we're not looking to combine them because they'd be
So
two
you'd have to
different zonings.
rezone the other parcel in order for it to become
neighborhood business.
I was what is the current zoning on the other
Community
parcel?
facility.
Community facility. Dan, is your understanding that they were going to stay separate? If we're creating an adjoining parcel, the language still allows for the 3 addresses there. I don't understand.
It's just, it would be a split zone parcel, right? So he's not asking for rezoning on 1630.
But he's talking about one entrance for one parcel and one entrance for the other.
Well, we already have an incoming driveway and outgoing
Right.
driveway for
And they've not
1639 to
eliminated that.
1641 North French with 5 different tenants. So we'd have to keep that, and we would have just one
Additional
one
drive.
additional drive for 1635, where right now we have 2.
So it's essentially 2 curb cuts in total.
Yeah, I think I was under the impression you were going to combine.
Well, there's one already
parcel
there,
with
so
one curb cut.
That's, therein lies the question.
I think this belongs at the planning board, and I don't think it's our place to make that decision. We are looking at one section to rezone, to amend the zoning map. We are not looking at both parcels, and I don't think we have the right to do something with the other parcel at this point.
The recommendation to our Town of Amherst Planning Department from the Erie County Department of Environment Planning is reduce additional points of conflict the applicant should consider using at its main access point the existing entrance on its adjacent 1639 North French Road parcel. Further into the agenda packet, the memorandum from Daniel Lotowski, Assistant Planning Director, includes things that say the Amherst Traffic Safety Board repeatedly reviews traffic safety related to the number of access and conflicts on North French Road in this immediate. Amherst Traffic Safety Board does not agree with the addition of another driveway in this area and recommend access management techniques such as driveway consolidation be pursued. So I do believe if these are in front of us, then this is something that we have authority over to include.
But also, they're not understanding that the 2 drives are already there at 1635. It's not as though there's no entrance or exit at 1635. We actually have a horseshoe, there's 2 of them, so we're eliminating one.
Eliminating one drive.
Right.
Not multiple.
And we're not adding anything.
There's a daycare center, there's a gym, there's all
On the other
sorts of
parcel.
things on the other parcel. One entrance and exit, I believe, is problematic, and I think it should be the purview of the planning board.
And we have no intention of making just one entrance for 1635 through 1641 North French. It would be a traffic nightmare to try and get people in and out of,
It's not connected.
2
You
different
didn't hear
But
facilities.
the current driveway is to a singular house on the 1-acre parcel at 1635, correct?
it's a horseshoe driveway with 2,
But it's a home,
two
right?
curb
It's
cuts,
currently a
yes.
person, and you're asking to add neighborhood business to it, which would be increase the traffic to this parcel.
yes.
So the driveways where the stop here and then you stop, 50 yards up, I'm just making up a note, I'm not great with directions. But then to get to the other ones, you're asking for 2 entrances to 2 commercial properties, whether neighborhood business, I forget what you said the other one is zoned as. Whereas I'm saying 1 access point to the entire parcel, of which you own,
You're
correct?
saying one access point to 2 large parcels.
No, one's 4 acres, one's 1 acre, correct?
Yes.
So the 1-acre parcel is the one that we're rezoning, the much smaller
That is
parcel.
correct.
Yes.
And
And we're looking at
currently
one
has
drive
2
for that.
So if you,
He's saying-
right, but I'm saying if you, so let me just restate this. Are you asking for a limit of 1 additional or 1 curb cut on the parcel that that's in question?
Yes.
Okay. It doesn't impact, he can connect to the other parcel, but it does not lessen the number of curb cuts on the existing parcel.
No, she's saying yes.
I'm saying 1 access point to both parcels. If we're requiring vehicular access between the 2.
How do you get fire in egress? So usually you have 2.
You have a large daycare center
Okay,
there.
So you would normally have 2 points of ingress, right, at that location, in case one of the driveways was blocked, so that you could still get, so you need to have a minimum of 2 curb cuts across the 5-acre parcel in order to get fire trucks into the site.
But you don't need 2 curb cuts for a 4-acre parcel.
He has 2 curb cuts on his 4-acre parcel currently.
So those are the ones that I think can stay, that
Okay,
access
so there's
point to
the-
that
so
to
we're
make
not
the, yes.
removing. That's what, so the.
We're
okay,
combining to the
perfect.
same access that currently work
Okay.
in my,
No, wait a minute. Are you saying you seem to not be consistent with what you're saying?
okay.
You're saying one access point to both parcels, and then in the next sentence, you're saying the current parcel can stay the way it is, that we're not looking at, and we're limiting the other one to 1. So I'm confused as to what you're saying.
I'm saying that the 5-acre parcel should have the same egress and ingress as the 4-acre parcel does. I'm saying no new entrance, and I understand that there is a residential house there and that it has its own entrance. The amount of traffic that goes to a residential house is going to be very different from a neighborhood business,
All the
right?
more reason why we would need the entrance for that 1-acre parcel.
And the neighbors are already concerned about the traffic.
The neighbors are concerned about the traffic because the neighbors know nothing about what the New York State DOT has. Does he just, tonight, he just read the information. The last time that we met, people did not know about what the DOT was going to be doing to North French Road, which is terrific.
So New York State DOT, as I just read into the record, is planning significant improvements on that portion of North French. So again, I'm just going to reread that portion. So it's a right turn lane from North French westbound onto New York 270 northbound. It will also widen the existing pavement section to 3 lanes on North French between New York 270 and Landings, and lengthen the left turn lane from New York 270 southbound to North French eastbound. And shoulders along Route 270 will be widened to conform to current department standards. So the way I understand it, we have an amendment in front of us that's been seconded that asks to, well, I'm going to say, I understand it as meaning that there's a limit of 1 curb cut allowed on the current parcel, and that the existing parcels curb cuts are just existing parcel curb cuts. The 2 parcels are to be connected. Am I incorrect?
No, I want a single point of access to both parcels so a single point of access, whether it be one entrance or whatever.
Okay, so you don't want any curb cuts on the parcel in question?
Correct. And that is in line with what both Amherst planners and Department of Environment Planning. They're saying consider using a main access point from 1639, and our planner said driveway consolidation should be pursued. So do our planners not consider fire and traffic safety when they, I don't understand.
They weren't saying 1 entrance for both parcels.
Then what does driveway consolidation should be pursued?
Going from 2 driveways, which we have right now at 1635, to 1 driveway.
Yeah, so they're eliminating one of the 2 curb cuts on the current parcel, is what planning is saying.
Kim, can you put that back up?
So the planning department's recommendation was to eliminate this, currently both parcels have 2 driveways. They want to eliminate 1 driveway on the parcel in question for rezoning.
That's right.
Okay.
That's what, yeah, so 1, okay.
But that's not
I
what
see what
your
you're saying.
amendment
I see what you're
says.
saying.
Okay.
Okay, so a single point of access to this one.
Yes, so single curb cut in, and then the secondary access point is into the adjacent parcel.
Perfect.
So do we want to amend the amendment?
Yes, but if there's a second, do we have to vote and then
I'll
amend it then?
just, no, I think
You can
we can withdraw it.
Perfect.
Okay. So the First Amendment's being withdrawn and replaced with a Second Amendment that basically, go ahead, what do you want to take it from
A
there?
single point of access from the North French Road to the parcel located at 1635 North French Road.
Okay. So the secondary access from this new parcel under that amendment will be into 1639. Is that consistent with what you understand?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay. All right, thank you for that.
Thank you.
No, we
And,
have to vote on
I will
that.
motion the original resolution as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
So Brian, just to clarify, the clause related to the connection between the parcels stays, right? That was a condition?
So, yeah, so there's to be a driveway connecting the two parcels. And there's allowed a new curb cut on the North French.
Yep.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is public expression. I'm going to motion to open public expression at this time.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to start with the list. Frank Belliati. When you come forward, I'd ask you again to please state your name and address.
Frank Belliati. I'm going to get home early tonight. I was going to start off with saying this has nothing to do with artificial intelligence, which is the key word these days. I noticed that there was a discussion in the county where the legislature and the executive branch were talking about some bonds. Somewhere in that discussion, the county executive and his entourage, anyways, pulled it because they were going to find another way to finance things. I think that's a lesson here. Bonds is not the answer. Bonds is the question. The rates aren't coming down. In fact, they're slanted heavier it's an inverted yield curve. They're heavier right now. To get a mortgage is still over 7%. We went to a finance committee meeting this week, and there were not quite sure all of what their responsibility is. One of them seemed to be that when the auditors are finished, when Drescher and Malecki are done, they issue an unqualified opinion. It's clean, everything's fine, except here's some suggestions we have of not enough to take us out of it. That committee would take a look at those for any further discussion so that doesn't get lost and refer back here. The committee hasn't really met and done anything in probably a couple of years here. There were 5 people on it. Their terms expired at the end of last year. One of them apparently got reappointed, Mr. Dion, and they got a spot open. They have a spot open. They're taking recommendations. I don't know how soon. It struck me, and I made a comment at that meeting, that we ought to take a look at some of the controls. If you're talking about a place that's under 11% new problem, that we ought to look in some areas, excuse me, at some areas and put them under control. What you would take a look at, I would think, payroll processes, the audits of controls, and on the cash side, any place where there's cash coming in. And thirdly, I didn't mention it that day, but the bid process. The controller interspaced with that and said that's 2 of the things that they look at on a regular basis anyways. Yeah, if I got a bell, I got a bell. That's all right.
All right, Tom Weisbeck. Tom Weisbeck.
Tom Weisbeck, Drawbridge Court. I will continue on about the street lighting. I wanted to talk about the 9,600, a little over 9,600 street lights. Now, if you divide them up by the 33 million, I'm not even talking about the interest rates for whatever bonds you took out. It comes out to like $3,400 per street light. And then if you divide it up, I counted on my court, I got 7 street lights. So there's 19 homes. it comes out about $26 a streetlight. But if you would have took the $15 million and let Niagara Mohawk / National Grid change them out for $15 million, that would have been only $12 per household on my street. I don't know how it would develop on other stuff. So we could also opt in, just, they would have changed each street light out when they were coming out, if they were out, and it would have been no charge. So on a budget, we got about $3.8 million for the street lighting. So you said we're gonna save money. How we're gonna do that? You haven't answered that question since it's been addressed. I'm gonna continue to ask that every meeting I come to. How you're gonna save the money. And then now every time you have a new street lighting district, how's that gonna be paid off? Is that gonna increase our street lighting bill? I mean, you already have something on the minutes, right, for Harding Avenue to increase the streetlights there. So how does that affect all the taxpayers in the town of Amherst? So, only thing I can say is it's going to be difficult. Every time you put a new street lighting, people are going to be here. Because you're going to increase our taxes every time you do that. So all this new development you have, maybe I'm wrong, but think about it. If someone wants a street lighting, you got to hire a contractor, install the lights, run the wires, connect it up, make sure they're qualified men to do that. So that's all I can say about the street lighting. But one more thing I had to ask you about. I was at the Zoning Board of Appeals about Sheridan Mills. You're going to put a coffee shop there. There were a lot of, I didn't speak. I just observed it. I was astounded because of what they were doing. They're starting to, they were allowing the coffee shop to open up at 5 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. What do you think the neighbor's going to be thinking? Would you want that by your house, Brian? Would you?
Okay, Jerry DeCosmo.
All right. Good evening, town board members. Sure. I'm Jerry DeCosmo. I live on Meyer Road. I'm speaking tonight regarding Resolution 2024-226 on the bond for the theater building, pages 146 to 158 of the agenda packet. The bond is for $11 million for a building. What is the square footage of this building? It makes a difference if you are spending $11 million for a 2,000 square foot building versus a 10,000 square foot building. How did you calculate the construction cost with no square footage amount? Why does the wording not state will not exceed $11 million? Without this important phrase, the residents are led to believe that you will exceed the $11 million. Wording and lack of wording matters. The resolution states, in part, that the plan of financing includes bonds of $8.5 million, $2.5 million by the theater tenant, and the levy and collection of taxes on all the taxable real property in the town to pay the principal of said bonds and the interest. How much will Musical Fair be paying? $2.5 million per the resolution, or 3.3 million per the attached report? Why are the amounts different? On page 155, this project is highlighted in yellow. What deems this project an emergency communication project? How does the construction of a theater building relate to an emergency communication project? Will you be housing the 9/11 system in this building? It also states if musical fare reimburses above the minimums. Exactly what does this mean? When you have not provided an amount that designates the minimum, is the minimum 2.5 million or 3.3 million or something entirely different? Is musical fare reimbursing, or is this an obligation required under the lease agreement? Who determined the financial agreement with musical fare? And is this in the best interest of the taxpayers? The bond resolution is improperly worded to allow loopholes. This bond fails to provide clear and concise dollar amounts, and this bond fails to provide a proper explanation of what this money will be used for. Nowhere in the resolution does it detail for the taxpayers or the investors how you arrived at the $11 million figure, how much square footage for the building, and an explanation on the differences in amounts to be paid by musical fare. It also should state that musical fare has a contractual legal obligation. Transparency is not just important to the taxpayers, it's also critical to protect investors' interests. Investors have the right to know all the relevant information about the bond issuer, and any misleading information or lack of transparency can lead to financial losses. We are asking you to pull the bond resolution on the theater building until such time that it can be verified regarding the cost, the additional revenue, the wording, and the size of the building and the actual purpose. Thank you.
Andrea Morganti. Andrea Morganti.
Good evening, Amherst board members. My name is Andrea Morganti, and I reside in Gettsville. I am speaking as a representative for a nonpartisan group who only wants Amherst to once more become the pride of Western New York. There is concern among the residents as we have become more educated with the items that are appearing under the consent agenda. Per the Amherst Town Rules Order Number 6, the consent agenda allows the routine and non-controversial business items. It mentions the scheduling of public hearings, i.e. sewer improvements. Please explain how these items that I'm going to be talking about are considered routine and non-controversial. This is my next point. Local laws, financials for town budget transfers, grants, bids, bond resolutions, including the theater building. In being transparent with the public, the consent agenda removes the public's right to hear the discussion and debates on each item that I have described above before it is voted on. Are you intentionally trying to exclude the public from understanding what you are voting on? I fail to see how these resolutions listed above can be labeled routine or non-controversial, when previously the following items were not under the consent agreement: bids, budget transfers, capital project improvements, and bonds. Are you now putting the same type of items on the consent agenda because you consider them routine and non-controversial? I am sure that each member of this board wants to ensure full transparency. So why are you excluding the public from discussion and debates on these items? I am asking the town to follow the town's rules of order and remove these items that are not routine or non-controversial. What is the town's local law on purchasing? The town's local law, Chapter 40, purchasing, allows for competitive bidding on best value. As is stated in your procurement policy, Where is the local law does it state that you can use piggybacking? Please educate me as to why piggybacking is in your procurement policy but not in your local law. Why does it encompass all types of purchasing options but not piggybacking? Musical fair. I'm only going to touch on a few areas that are listed on the overhead. The lease is already signed with Musical Fair, so what happens to the signed lease if the town loses the lawsuit? Does this void the contract? Is the town potentially vulnerable to a breach of contract lawsuit for Musical Fair? Or is there a clause in the contract that releases the taxpayers if the town loses the lawsuit? What happens if Musical Fair can't pay back the principal portion of the serial bond? Or will the town forgive Musical Fair bond payment like you did for the Buffalo Niagara Heritage Village? Supervisor Culpa, you indicated you wanted diversity. Look at the current program. They lack appeal. With the amount of money you are spending on these projects, our taxes are increasing and will not allow the taxpayers the benefit of enjoying Musical Fair. Supervisor Culpa, you are pricing your own residents out of being able to enjoy those events. Taxpayers should not have to pay for any of Musical Fair events because they've already paid for them.
Gina Gentry.
Good evening, board members. Gina Gentry, Amherst, New York. What I gave Brian Culpa there was my phone number, because the next time you want to call and talk to somebody about me, call me. When I get a text message, from a friend saying that you called him complaining because I was videotaping while they were talking about your wife, you should take your own advice. When there was a wife that was in this audience and you called her, I'm sorry.
Please address the entire board.
Okay, entire board. He called the wife's husband, employer, and told him that his wife was a disruption when she had said nothing. You want to protect your wife, he should be able to protect his wife. Number one. Number two, contracts are coming up. There's contracts that are out for the town workers, for the police. They're coming up this year. Our taxes will probably raise again, but I'm going to tell you this, Culpa. I would rather you spend the money on the policemen and the policewomen that are out there defending us on the town workers that are out there keeping our town clean and trying to maintain it. We need them. We need them. We don't need you. So the next time you decide to walk yourself out that door in a hissy fit, you need to stay out that door and walk out of this building and not come back. And Lavin, Mr. Lavin, I am absolutely appalled at the fact that when you, as a service member, stand up and sing that national anthem, he has the audacity to roll his eyes. And I don't know how you can sit next to him. But my word to you is be very careful, because you are supposedly wanting this seat next. Your quietness, your not speaking up for the town is not going to get you the votes that you need. You need to start to defend these residents like you have defended our country. Resign. I have seconds left, so if everybody who wants him to resign, please stand up. Resign, 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 resign. I have 10 seconds. Resign, 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 resign.
Allison Segraves.
Hi. Allison Segraves, Amherstdale Road. Again, I think that what everyone has in common, whether they're in this room or the people that I talk to across all different constituencies, age, every demographic, is we want a town that is well-run. We want a town that is run with fiscal discipline. We want a town that's run with transparency, and we want a town that's run with integrity. Tonight, you are voting on spending $11, I get the difference, $1 million in essentially a loan that our kids, my kids, I just talked to my 25-year-old son and said, is this something that you want to have to pay for the next 30 years? And he said, he's not inclined to want to agree with his mother. No 25-year-old young man is. He's like, that doesn't make any sense. So I want to bring to people's attention, this is a PSA that there's some really good news about theater in Amherst. Do people realize that just a few miles away, we have a brand new theater that's already been built? I ask you all to get out your phones, and you've already got your laptop open, so I would suggest people Google, if you want, I'll read about it, Canterbury Woods Performing Arts Center. Check it out, everybody. Check it out. Check it out. It is a beautiful, beautiful, world-class entertainment in our own backyard, world-class entertainment in our own backyard. It opened last August. We already have a brand new world-class facility that says it's a state-of-the-art venue for the arts, a cultural hotspot. Enjoy live music, theater, and dance from around the world. Support and appreciate residents as they bring their hidden talents to the stage. So before the meeting tonight, I was looking into this because I was looking for things to do in the next couple of weeks, and I thought their programming sounds absolutely outstanding. So I'm just gonna, if you haven't Googled, I suggest you check this out on your laptop because you got it open. You can share it with your colleagues up there. So April 7th, we have a ballet that's a ballet company where the person that is the director is from Hawaii. Now the company is located in Buffalo. It sounds like a beautiful show. I think it's like $25 to attend. Then coming up on the 14th, Classical Dances of India. Super excited about that. And then on the 21st, we have jazz and bolero by a Grammy-nominated musician. So I am here to say that when this vote potentially comes up for voting tonight, that anybody who's watching at home, anybody who's in this room, be aware that we already have a brand new theater. And what I expect from our elected officials is when something like that is built, that before you ask us to fund another $11 million, that we leverage the assets we already have.
Danny Farrell.
Nice going, Allison.
Thank you for your indulgence. I might be a little bit longer than 3 minutes, and I'll apologize in advance for it. My name is Danny Farrell. I live on Parkhaven Drive in Amherst. Concerning the 11.4% property tax increase, since the Democratic supervisor and all Democratic town board have seen fit to increase the property tax levy to 11.4%, essentially extorting the money from Amherst property owners, I propose for the next budget vote, the property tax levy be reduced by 8.4%. This would bring the property tax levy back to its legal New York State cap limit of 3%. Put a hold on any unnecessary projects such as the Westwood, museum relocation, and any other unnecessary endeavors the town cannot afford, and I suggest reimbursing the property owners the difference of the illegal property tax levy. If you want to reestablish the confidence and respect of the town's residents, it would be in your best interest to do so. Concerning the town supervisor, I believe the politicians of this town have lost sight of what their responsibilities are. Their responsibilities are to tend to the town's day-to-day business activities and concerns, to provide the town's residents with needed services such as repairing roads, snow plowing, improving the quality of life, etc. What the town's politicians are actually doing is lining their pockets, their business partners' pockets, and others with money at the taxpayers' expense, obtaining developers who they are associated with in order for them to profit from exorbitant projects that are unnecessary. Since the supervisor is an architect by trade, his position as town supervisor is grossly a conflict of interest. Therefore, it should be recommended he resign from his position as town supervisor and a temporary supervisor be installed until the next election. My personal recommendation would be Deborah Buckeye. She at least has a conscience and is better fit to be an advocate for the town's residents, especially the senior citizens of the town. Further, it would be recommended by the town's residents for the office of the state comptroller to be brought in for a look into the possibility of fraud or misuse of public funds by the town supervisor and town board. Furthermore, it should be recommended that if the supervisor doesn't resign from his position, a petition should be brought up by the town's residents for a vote of no confidence. The supervisor and some members of the town board have demonstrated that he and they have no desire to work with the town's taxpayers. They have their own agendas which do not include the taxpayers' input or concerns. You, supervisor, have demonstrated a lack of conscience, a lack of consideration for those property owners who are struggling to make ends meet, and a lack of judgment. Furthermore, if you do not resign, the citizens of the town of Amherst have a duty to have you removed by the courts as stated in Public Officers Law, Section 36. Removal of town, village, improvement district, or fire district officer by court. All right. I would just like your indulgence for a moment longer.
Please have a seat, sir.
Furthermore, I believe the governor of this state has the power to remove you as well. A petition of no confidence signed by the citizens of this town should be sent to her office for consideration.
Have a seat.
I would like just a moment longer to address the town board.
You don't have any. You're done. Thank you.
Mr. Farrell, Mr.
With
Farrell,
reference to the town board, I find
Mr. Farrell,
You're beyond your time limit. You're out of order.
with reference to the town board, I find there are no checks and balances to keep this board in check. A one-party board and supervisor make for a dictatorship than a democracy. When there is a one-party board and supervisor, anything and everything they want to pass is not met with any resistance or meaningful discussions beforehand. Whatever the supervisor wants, the board approves. I'll just finish up here. Since there are two major parties in the political arena, I would like to suggest a resolution be drawn up for a townwide vote to permanently make 2 council seats for the Republican Party, 2 council seats for the Democratic Party. In this way, it would provide checks and balances needed to run the day-to-day operations of the town and provide a meaningful discussion as to where to take the town's future. Finally, the residents and property owners need to wake up, stand up, call out this town's politicians for their outrageous and underhanded behavior. Let them know that the town will no longer get away with whatever they please with taxpayer money. Hold them accountable for their misuse of public funds and their own financial gains. Thank you for the opportunity of addressing this board and supervisor. God bless this town and God bless America.
Gondek.
Hello. Thank you. My name is Lori Gondik, and I live on Stall Road in Gettsville, New York. And I have come here today because I'm requesting you as a town board to be my advocate. I have a problem with modern disposal, and I was wondering if maybe you could help me with it because I'm just one tiny person, and they're not listening to me. Thank you. I appreciate that. I live across from Beechwood Nursing Home, and by 2 o'clock in the morning, they have a dumpster that comes by and beeps for an hour and a half at night. And I cannot have my windows open because I constantly wake up to beeping. They come and pick it up. It takes an hour and a half. They come back and they drop off a new one. It takes another hour and a half. And it is at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. It is not during daytime. And I was wondering if there was something that you could do on my behalf as a town council to help me out.
Is it every day?
It is every other week. And it isn't.
We should be able to get that addressed.
It's usually on a Thursday, but sometimes it depends on how big the dumpster is.
I've gotten other complaints about Beechwood and the dumpsters.
Okay. So the contract for that dumpster is not through the town refuse, so we'll have to deal with it through code enforcement, but we'll take care of that. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much for your time.
David, it looks like Prislanik.
Oh, you do her.
Good evening, board members. I'm following up on an email that I sent to all of you back on March 7th. If you haven't read it, I would ask you to please go back and read it. And I know the supervisor is well aware of this. The other board members may not be, but I'm bringing forth an issue that has been on my mind. I've been a town resident for almost approaching 40 years here, and it's regarding fire district taxes. And I'm formally requesting a review of the topic that, again, the supervisor is aware of, others may not be. But the issue is the inequity and the disproportionate taxing of residents in the North Amherst Fire District, specific to the tax associated with fire and emergency protection. Residents in the North Amherst Fire District pay between 4.5 and almost 6 times what our neighboring districts pay, just for fire protection. In light of the recent tax increase and the assessment moving to 100% of value, this inequity has and will grow even larger. My own comparable full assessment value, just in a letter I got a couple weeks ago, rose 20%. That's only going to make this, or amplify this fire district tax. In the most recent tax bill that I received for my property that was assessed at $230,000 at the 62% level, the North Amherst district charge was $787 just for fire district protection. Residents in Gettsville and North Amherst paid $179 and $134. That's how big the disparity is. It's huge. It's over $600 a year. And again, I've been in this place almost 40 years. Thankfully, I've never had to dial 911, and I hope I never have to. But whether or not I do or any of my neighbors do, we're all going to get the great same quality service that our volunteer fire companies provide to us. But why should residents in our district have to pay this premium for the coverage and protection? We do live in a sparsely populated area, and again, we don't get the benefits of other residents in Gettsville and East Amherst that, have more populated area to spread this over. But again, that shouldn't be a cause for us paying the amount that we do. While not directly comparing refuse pickup to fire protection, all residents of the town pay a flat fee for trash pickup. I don't pay more or less if I have more or less fire, more or less refuse. Why should I pay any more than for fire protection? I did have prior communications with the town attorney. Still, I really got nothing out of this. I'm really asking the town, prior to your 2025 budget review, to take a hard look that I was promised last time and see if there's something we can do. I mean, it's, now that we have the 11% increase, the valuation changes, this number is going to get worse. So I look forward to your response and attention so we can, properly review and have an action to help remedy this problem. Thank you.
The prior town attorney had found or had issued an opinion that would require a townwide referendum to reorganize fire districts. So I will refer it to our current town attorney and see if there's any change in opinion on that.
I appreciate that, but just understand as a group, for me to pay 6 times what other people pay for fire protection when, thank God, I never have had to use it, I mean, it's absurd. It really is. So please take a look at it. Thank you.
Nicole Pohansik? I'm sorry if I mispronounced that.
You went to school with my husband, you should know that. My name is Nicole Pohanchek of Hosser Road in Gettsville, New York. I've lived the past 40 of my 45 years of life here in Amherst, New York, and I've never been so disgusted about this town board. Ronald Reagan once said, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction." We didn't pass it to our children in bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on to them to do the same. Or one day we will spend our sunset years telling our children's children what it was like when the United States, when men were free. Both of my grandfathers fought in World War II and were long-term residents of the town of Amherst. My grandfather, Gene Lodiga, was in the Navy and was on a submarine chaser in the Pacific. And my grandfather, Louis Skorzinski, fought under George Patton's Third Army and liberated the Buchenwald concentration camp in Germany. They not only fought for the citizens of the United States, but they fought for the rights of people across the ocean. Since 2020, the Amherst Town Board has tried to take away our freedom given to us by the United States Constitution. That is when taxpayers were not allowed in these very chambers. We were excluded while other towns around Erie County were allowing their citizens to come in. We were blocked, and a lot of shady things happened during those times. The next occurrence was when Mr. Kalpa told a taxpayer to shut up and sit down, trying to silence their freedom of speech. Then Ms. Berger flipped out over another individual, thanking God, which is protected under our U.S. Constitution's First Amendment right. And then Mr. Kalpa went on public radio and publicly shamed Mrs. Stratz and supported Jackie Berger in her actions. And then I was blown away today. I didn't know, Mr. Lavin, thank you for your service, but you are not standing up for the citizens of this town. None of the board members have spoken up about the board trying to take away our First Amendment rights. Shame on you, Mr. Levin. You sat in silence while evil overtook our town in trying to take away our rights. Please, there is still time for the board members to stand up and fight for the townpayers' First Amendment rights. They cannot be taken away from this town. These taxpayers deserve better.
John Trabert.
John Traber, 234 Mount Vernon Road. I attended the most recent State of the Town presentation at the Bailey Avenue Community Center that was given by the supervisor. At that time, he addressed the LED street lighting project. He stated that the cost was $33 million. He noted a projected savings of $3 million a year with a payoff of 10 years. Well, that's simply the principal that he's paying off. What he failed to mention was the true cost, approximately $48 million. After bonding this project of $33 million for 20 years at 4%, that comes out to $48 million. He mentioned a projected savings of $3 million a year. Keep in mind this is projected, and any company doing the work would undoubtedly exaggerate their projections. He also failed to mention lost revenue from owning these lights and extra costs associated with the maintenance. $3.1 million is clearly not an accurate reflection of any savings. This is also a far cry from his initial savings estimate of $500,000 per year as stated in the Amherst B on 11/8 of 23. Internet research shows LED streetlights to have a lifespan of 60,000 to 100,000 hours, or 12 to 23 years at 12 hours per day. The actual payoff for this project will occur between 20 and 26 years with no significant savings and perhaps higher costs to the taxpayers. This project as it stands is a loser to residents. Another item brought up by the supervisor was the police department. The supervisor mentioned that they added jobs. This is not true. They have added positions, such as school resource officers, but these positions are filled from existing bodies in the patrol force, thereby depleting resources from the patrol force that protects our neighborhoods. The police department is currently struggling to fill positions left open through retirements. I was informed by the Assistant Chief of Police that the current manpower is 154 officers, and to be up to full strength, they would need 160 officers. Mr. Kompa, your comments about the police department are simply deceptive. Regarding the highway department, the supervisor on 10/18 of 21 signed a settlement agreement between the town of Amherst and the Amherst Highway Employees Association. According to line 5 of that agreement, you consented to a minimum staffing level of 137 full-time employees. The highway department is currently staffed at 132. That's 5 short. How can you blame budget woes on hiring new employees when you're not even up to minimum staffing levels? The information you provide to taxpayers simply cannot be trusted. Thank you.
Matt Plunkett.
Matt Plunkett, North Hill Drive. I noticed on the agenda tonight there's a conflict waiver agreement, excuse me, between the town and the law firm of Hodgson Russ. Hodgson Russ is a very good law firm, there's no question about that. But I don't know what services they're providing that are so unique that we have to enter into a conflict waiver with them. There's probably a dozen other law firms in town that could do the work without the necessity of having a conflict waiver. To me, it's never a good idea. Presumably, Hodgson Russ must be representing somebody who has some action pending against the town or something like that that would create a conflict. And it's never a good idea to sleep with the enemy, you know, if that's the case with what's going on. The other thing, somebody mentioned earlier about something on the agenda somewhere, I believe, that was being passed on an emergency basis. And, you know, one of the things that it's always nice if you're going to pass things on an emergency basis to identify the nature of the emergency, because using the term emergency is one of the ways that allows municipalities to escape from the provisions of the competitive bidding laws and things like that. You can't just call things an emergency to make it more convenient. There actually should be some kind of honest-to-goodness emergency, and I think that whenever a resolution comes forward calling for emergency purchases, the nature of the emergency should be spelled out in the resolution that's put forward to spend the money. Thank you.
Judy Ferraro. Judy Ferraro.
Judy Ferraro, Donnelly Boulevard. We, the people of Amherst, are experiencing a breakdown of language by our politicians. Perhaps you should provide a glossary of your own so we can understand your words. Absent that, let's start with the word democracy. What you see behind me is the definition of democracy. People of every category speaking out against clueless overlords that are hell-bent on imposing irrational, oppressive burdens on a population, regardless of consequences to their well-being. But feeds the insatiable appetites of the Amherst profiteers. Actions speak louder than your weasel words. Something is rotten in the state of Denmark. And the happy talk is not convincing the lived experience, the reality of the average Amherst citizen. You do not have enough lipstick to cover what you have concocted behind closed doors. Democracy dies in darkness and behind closed doors. It takes unmitigated gall to ignore the people telling this board at every meeting they don't want what you are peddling, foisted on them and forced to pay for it anyway. Culpa and his court need to stop the insane spending without permission of the people. Bonding is our money, being paid back with interest. It is destroying the town and the common people in it and will for generations. Meanwhile, the fat cats continue to profit off the backs of taxpayers while at the same time treating these providers with contempt. Something is indeed rotten in the state of Denmark. Everyone knows it. Amherst has become a laughingstock emanating from a group of immature grifters who have procured power and are running amok with it. Something other officials in other towns have the moral integrity and humanity to shun. Is this abusive circus going to be the legacy of Amherst? All because of unchecked spending by one person's delusional ambitions who has no money, resorts to selling off precious land, taxing residents into oblivion, and insulting all those who dare to oppose. And please stop the Amherst Central Park misnomer ruse. It is a COPA PUD giveaway site. Thank you.
Chris Strongoski.
Good evening, Chris Strongoski, Youngs Road. First, I'd like to announce that after 1 year, the Recreation Commission, which Ms. Berger is a liaison to, has finally posted minutes of their meetings after 1 year. Congratulations. We'll see if it continues next month. Which brings me to my next point about Westwood. Mr. Coppa, you've been stating for months that the numbers of the testing that was supposedly done in December is on the town website. Well, that simply is not true. Matter of fact, one of our members of our group contacted the IT department, the manager, and he couldn't find it anywhere. So where are the numbers? With respect to the contamination at Westwood, a former supervisor, Supervisor Weinstein, he stated the property is contaminated and would have to be remediated. Ms. Berger, in her campaign material in the last election, stated that the property is contaminated and would need to be remediated. We've had if you just noticed in the town of Tonawanda, the town supervisor, he wants to do some reconfiguration of their golf course. Good luck with that. But the first thing he said was, we have to look at the remediation costs before we do anything. What are the remediation costs going to be for Westwood? It seems to be you're the only one, Mr. Culpa, that denies the fact that the property is contaminated. You even made a statement that we cherry-picked off the report. Well, actually, you cherry-picked off the report, not us, by putting Music Fair on the 9th fairway, which seems to have the least amount of contamination versus the entire golf course, which is kind of unique, as anybody who knows how golf courses are maintained, they all get equal treatment, the greens, the tees, the fairways, especially at this particular country club, which was very, very exclusive. It was very, very well maintained. It was really something special for the town. Finally, Ms. Marinucci, I want to thank you for joining our conservative group the other day, last week. We thank you for coming and listening to us. It was very civil. We had a very good conversation to create dialogue. And one of the questions I asked you was regarding Music Fair, when we have so many other essential services in this town, well, excuse me, Music Fair I don't qualify as essential service. When we have police that are understaffed, the highway department understaffed, roads that need to be repaired, there are numerous other things that need to be brought to the attention of this board that need to be funded. And you said it brings the community together. You see all these people here who've been coming for months. Do you think that this Music Fair really has brought the community together? The only thing I see is brought the community together against it.
Yeah. Hey, Dave Howard.
I hope you'll tell me where the numbers are on the website.
Dave Howard.
Dave Howard, 194 Roycroft Boulevard. I'm going back to the town park again. I was at your thing over at the police department, and I did talk to a couple department heads, and I mentioned my concern on maintaining the park at Westwood versus if it was changed over Audubon. And they both agreed, the guys I talked to, that yes, it would be a lot simpler and more effective way to use town resources. There's no reason that this town park, if it's done, it should be done at Westwood. It should be done on an Audubon site where it connects directly into the Amherst Park bike path, and it makes a bigger park. We have access on Maple Road with a parking lot already. We have access on North Forest with a parking lot already, and we have access at the Northtown Center with parking lots already. We don't even need roads going through the park. They can park in the parking lots right there and walk in like you do in a lot of other parks. I mean, it's just ludicrous to put it on Westwood site when you already have parkland on the Audubon site. It just needs to be moved. Stop.
Bob Druzel. Yep.
Bob Dirtle, 92 Chateau Terrace. Got some questions for you. How much does Amherst spend yearly on cultural organizations? How many cultural organizations get funding from Amherst? How many Amherst residents attend musical fair performances on average? What is the proposed yearly cost for maintaining the building to the town of Amherst? What is the quid pro quo for the town's donation to Music Fair and its directors etc. What does the fact that a former town supervisor is the president of the board of Musical Fair, and what does that have to do with our donation to Music Fair? We won't go into which political party.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me? I'm always wondered about these microphones. I don't know what the budget is. I think it's like $150, $200 million, and these microphones never seem to work right, you know? What a joke, you know? They don't want to hear you, Dennis. Probably not. Now, Brian, I don't want you to go crazy tonight, all right? You promise me you'll just stay here and relax and listen to me talk? Brian, just yes or no, please. Brian? All right, he's not going to. All right, I think he's staying, folks. All right. Okay, well, I don't have a lot to say tonight, but I got to tell you a story, or a little bit of a story. I went and paid my taxes several weeks ago, and I went and I stood outside this door in the parking lot over here, and I watched people come in, you know, and after I'd paid my taxes, and I noticed there were a lot of elderly people walking in. There were a couple gentlemen that had canes, and I think there was a woman that even had like some kind of a walker, and they came in and they were paying their taxes, and I sat there and I thought to myself, you know, they must have really struggled, I think, to get this money together, because I know my taxes they're always, I lived in the town of Amherst my whole life. It's expensive to live here. The taxes are a lot of money. 50 years worth. And so, I'm just saying that I know these people, I know what they're going through. It was a monumental task for them to get this money together, Brian, okay? And they had to come in and bring that check or cash or whatever they brought in, and they had to give it to the person in person and have that thing stamped and get it and walk out. You know, they just had to do it. I don't know. Some of these people. Thank you. And so they don't care. I know, but I know you care. That's why I'm here. And so I just thought, you know, here's these people. You know, they're going to go home now, and they're going to sit there, and they're going to come to the realization that they may, now that they're going to have to get reassessed, now they may have to come up next year with like a couple $1,000s more, and they're on a Social Security. It's the only thing they have is in a fixed income, and now they're going to have to consider selling their house. And they lived there all their lives, and they raised a family there, and their grandchildren come back at Christmas time, and there's all these cherished memories in this house. Maybe their spouse has already passed away, and this is all they have. And they thought that the rest of their lives, and God damn it, they thought the rest of their lives they were gonna die in that house. Okay? They thought they were gonna die there. And now Brian Culpa comes along, raises taxes up 32% since he's been in office. Don't cut me out, by the way. And all right, you knew that was gonna happen. Anyways, that's where you're at. If he's going to spend this kind of money, they should have
Thanks, Dennis.
Oh, thank you, Brian.
Okay.
You've been wonderful, really.
Paul Sir Cody.
Brian, please resign, all right?
Thanks, Dennis.
Paul Sircone, 52 Chateau Terrace. And after following Dennis and some of the other residents, I I almost feel what I hear. After following Dennis and some of the other people, I feel what I have to say is minuscule in comparison. But I have a concern over the amount of time that was allocated to respond to the assessment. If they were sent out at the beginning of the month and people didn't really have them delivered until the 7th or 8th, to have a deadline of the 31st to work with Gar Associates to have the assessment questioned by the 31st is less than 30 days. And everything need to be done to access on computer. And, well, I mean, I'm an educated individual, and I could make my way through the website and such. But I think that in the past, the town was more gracious to extend a greater time period. And they also had the assessment books available at the library. Now, I know this, comes at a cost, but yet still, the consideration in the past from the other town boards when they did the assessment was more than the time we're given here. And I think that it's an injustice to be done to the people, particularly since it all has to be done on computer now, well, virtually, because you can still hand in the forms, but you've got to download it or come to the assessor's office. And there was no booklet or any type of explanation on how to proceed as they had done in the past. There was just a one-page letter from the town explaining Gar Associates, you could call the number. I just think that was unfair, particularly when we're talking about moving it up to 100% assessment, which is the first time the town has ever done that. So I don't even need the full 3 minutes, but I just wanted to present that as a concern as one of the people here, and I wish they would consider extending it to have given everybody 30 days instead of less than 30 days.
All right, is there anybody else this evening? Anybody else this evening? Seeing none, on motion to close public expression.
Second.
Go for it.
You can speak the next one.
It's fine. Just please state your name and address for record.
It's Keith Bailey, I live in Getzville.
Okay.
Brian, I'd like to just have you look at me for my discussion for 3 minutes. You're giving me 3 minutes? Give me 3 minutes of your time and the others as well. Thank you, I would appreciate that. The last meeting, I stood up here and I asked, how did we come about with this reassessment of my house, my property? And you said, oh, it's on the website. I'm a very educated man. I went to the website. There is so much mumbo jumbo and acronyms and garbage on there that I can't figure out how it was you came up with the assessment of my house. How do you take my house, which I purchased in August of 2020, and bump the price up 25% above what I paid for it? Not just the 100% going for the market, but 25% increase above what I paid for my house in 2.5 years. Somebody give me an explanation for that one. I'd love to hear it. They've also said, and it's been asked, give us a little bit more time. Give us a little bit more detail. Give us some ammunition so that when we come to defend our position, we can. Because when you don't know what you're up against, you can't really come up with a good defense. And I think that's kind of done, somewhat on your part as, yeah, we don't want people to know. We don't want people to defend. Right. We don't want people to come up and challenge why our taxes went up and this property assessment went up and we can no longer afford it. The senior citizens in here, I quite honestly, I don't know how they're going to make it. You're pricing people out of homes. You're pricing people out of this community. And that is something that you should be concerned about. You should take into consideration. I don't know how you felt that an 11.4% tax increase this year and 31% over the last 10 or however many years it's been, how is that justified? Okay, how is it justified? When you give your responses tonight, why don't you give that justification for your increasing taxes that amount? This thing with the musical fair, with the golf course, the park, whatever you want to call it, you got to back burner this stuff. I'm sorry, but you got to back burner this stuff. My wife came to me and said, honey, I'd love to put new siding on the house and make it look really, really nice. I'm glad we didn't, because my property would have probably gone up even higher. But I said, you know what? We can't afford it. And that's what this town board needs to do. Honey, we can't afford it. Yep.
Close public expression.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next item on our agenda is the consent agenda.
I'll be very brief. I'll just, Mr. Copel, please, I'll be very brief. Angela, Sean,
To rule him out.
and Michael, I appreciate, and this audience appreciates the fact that you guys have the respect to look your citizens in the eyes when they're speaking. Mr. Copa, you need to give people respect to look them in the eye when they're speaking. Thank you.
Public expression.
No, move on. Consent agenda.
Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. I'm going to ask our town clerk to please read that. We're no longer in public expression. There's a second round of public expression. Doesn't matter. We're no longer in public expression. There's a second round of public expression after.
Public expression right after the.
There's a second round of public expression.
I know, I'm not here to be confrontational.
We're no longer in public expression. There is another round. Okay, the next. No.
Just.
I would ask our town clerk to please read the consent agenda.
Councilmember Berger, 1-2. Councilmember Marinucci, 1-2. Town Attorney, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Town Clerk, 1. Building Maintenance, 1. Controller, 1. Contract Compliance, 1, 2, 3, 4. Economic Development, 1. Engineering, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Highway, 1, 2 was withdrawn, 3, 4, 5, 6. Human Resources, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 was withdrawn, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Planning, 1. Police, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 13 was withdrawn. Senior Services, 1. Sewer Plant, 16, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Communications, 1 was referred to. Attorney. Public Improvement Permits, 1 consent, 2 consent, 3 consent, 4 consent, 5 consent. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to motion to adopt the consent agenda as it was appeared on the screen.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The next item on the agenda is Resolution 266. It's the Amherst Central Park Focus Area 3 bond resolution in the amount of $11 million, $8.5 million long-term borrowing, $2.5 million short-term borrowing for working capital, principal to be reimbursed by musical fair.
Second.
There's a second. On the question, or conversation. And with that, I would ask our town clerk for a voice vote, please.
Supervisor
Yes.
Supervisor Copa.
Yes.
Deputy Supervisor Lavin.
Yes.
Councilmember Berger.
Yes.
Councilmember Zucala.
Yes.
And Councilmember Marinucci.
Yes.
With that, completes our resolutions this evening. We're going to motion to go off agenda
Second.
for the purposes of dealing with 2 suspension items.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion regarding the emergency purchase authorization. The emergency service purchase to repair the load charge at the south end of the ice center, the north town center of Amherst. The purchase is an PRG for a total cost of $34,200 per the lowest quote, and I so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. My second would be the suspension item for the town board agenda for March 25th, 2024. It's the authorization to travel for the New York State Governor Finance Officers Association. The conference provides training for various aspects of government accounting, financial management, and budgeting, and I so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
With that, I'm going to motion to return to regular agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next item on our agenda is the second round of public expression. If you have new items to discuss, I would invite you to please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record.
Hello, good evening. At first, I wasn't trying to be Sarah Gemmer, 16 Woodcrest Drive. I was not trying to be confrontational before, but I do have to say, as a young individual who is nervous to speak in front of these, I actually don't appreciate the condescending tone at which I was treated. Just want to put that out there. As again, I'm a young individual trying to understand why my taxes are going up. This is not a very welcoming environment, so please excuse me if I am a little nervous. I am a teacher, and I am 33 years old on a single income. I bought my house in 2021 on my own money. Thought it was going to be a dream build. I loved it. And I'm a teacher, so I don't know if you guys know anything about teaching. I do teach in this district. I probably teach all of your grandchildren children. I cannot afford these tax increases. I have an escrow with my mortgage. It is $750 a month. With your assessment, my monthly mortgage will climb up almost 40% to $1,100 a month on a teacher budget, single income. I would like to know why. I already overpaid for my house. I put $40,000 cash down to beat out everybody else. I would like to know why my house is being assessed, even though it was assessed in 2021, why my assessment went up 100%. Thank you.
Thanks.
Good evening, town board members. My name is Jerry DeCosmo, and Good evening, town board members. My name is Jerry DeCosmo, and I live on Meyer Road. On page 149 of the agenda packet, Bond Resolution 2024-266, subsection 7, it states, "This bond resolution is subject to a permissive referendum, and the town clerk is hereby authorized and directed within 15 days after the adoption of this resolution to publish in the Amherst Bee." And it goes on from there. I stand here to bring your attention to the handout that I have provided titled New York Consolidated Laws, Town Law Section 90, Acts or Resolutions of the Town Board that are subject to a referendum on petition. In the middle of the paragraph, the law states you must publish the resolution subject to permissive referendum within 10 days, not 15 days as described in subsection 7, page 149 of the agenda packet of Resolution 224-266. By voting to approve the resolution tonight as written, the board is in violation of this law. Thank you for your attention.
My name is Andrea Morganti from Gettsville. Town board members, as you have just heard from Jerry DeCosmo, the Amherst residents have begun to educate themselves. We read every single resolution that is being brought forward by the town board members. Why? Because we only want the best for our town. I don't know who is reviewing your resolutions before they are brought before the residents, but they need to make sure that they are following the law. It doesn't look like they are doing a good job if we can find the errors. Councilman Zakula, on Thursday, March 14th, an Amherst Government Financial Advisory Board meeting was held. However, to date, you do not have on the website the agenda packet, the minutes, and the minutes packet. And there was a secretary on the web at the meeting. So I don't understand why this information has not been provided. You must be aware that this board committee is extremely important to the residents, as evidenced by the number of people who attended. And I strongly suggest that you correct this lapse of transparency and in the future allow this board to be videotaped. During the meeting, Chairman Dion indicated a long list of committee meetings at which a quorum was not available. Since you are the liaison to the group, remove these individuals who are not committed to this board and install Amherst residents who would be willing to serve. And please do not give me the excuse that you cannot find public members who want to attend and serve, because I submitted my request in November and I'm still waiting for an acknowledgement. A gentleman by the name of Joe Wojcicki came forward during that meeting and threw his hat in the ring. Another gentleman by the name of Dave Kunsick was asking relevant questions to the committee and appeared to be knowledgeable. Councilman Zakula, I know in fact that Kim Gable spoke to you and asked to be put on this committee. Even though the membership is indicating that it is full, please seriously consider these individuals to become a part of this committee. Don't you want Amherst residents who will make a difference instead of installing the same members year after year?
Good evening. I'll try not to holler at you. I won't. Listening to Shelley Schratz, listening to everything tonight and every night and all these meetings, I want to thank you on behalf of the people. It takes a lot of courage to say things that don't always agree with the other board members. It takes a lot of courage. Yeah, right, yes. And I'm saying this to all of you. And it takes a lot of courage when the residents don't like what you're doing. I've been in those seats. But the difference is, we didn't have consent agendas like you have now. We talked about everything. We gave the people their voice. And Michael, you have people, that Andrea, to think, when you hollered back at me that one day a couple years ago, that nobody wants to be on, well, nobody wants to be on these committees. It's not the truth. I went and I looked at who's on those committees. Hate to say, it's a lot of the same people that have been on them for years. And I'm talking the important committees. I'm talking the IDA board. I'm talking finance. I'm talking planning. I'm talking all of them. It's time to get new people. You can't change the direction that you go in if you're not up to change with where we are today. A lot of people talked about senior citizens. Look at me, Brian, I'm talking to you. I look when you talk to me. No, I don't want an applause. I just want the recognition that you're hearing me, because I get that at home, okay? But it's okay. But my point to you is that These taxes, I have people calling me at home because of the business I was in, the restaurant people. Some have special needs, like emotionally. They want to know how to do their taxes, to get this abatement. I said the 29th, it's over. I think it's over. They don't know how to do this stuff. We have a clerk's office. I believe the clerk's office, it's not a diss on you, Franny. I don't know who sends it out. This stuff needs to be sent out ahead of time. And imagine when people get sick, like this person was saying. Someone gets sick, and all of a sudden they're a young couple and they got 3 little kids. And dad's not going to make it, but dad's the only working person. That mom's got to worry about the health care and how they're going to do it. It's not that musical fair isn't a great idea, but let musical fair and the people that want to use it fund it. And start funding the things that are going to put people in a safe spot when crisis happens. And if one more person from a different state calls me and says, what's going on in your town? You're taking every mall down, you're doing all of these things. What happened to Amherst that I lived in? I can't give them the answer. But what they do say is, and what happened to the town board? We used to be crackpots. Judy Ferraro will tell you, she didn't like me. We didn't get along because I didn't do everything she wanted. That's okay, I'm kidding, Judy, but you know what I mean? At the end of the day, talk to them. You want them to stop screaming? Talk to them. She spoke to them tonight. And you had a dialogue which you didn't agree. But they could say, okay, they're doing their job. And they're also asking, how are you taking 3.5 weeks off from doing your job for this rest of this month?
Matt Plunkett, North Hill Drive. I'd like to ask the clerk, could you put the resolution back up, the emergency resolution that was voted on? Thank you. The request is pending successful completion of the contract review process. So you actually did get other offers or other contractors to bid on this? Okay. Okay. And it actually does have, well, something about the nature of the emergency. That's comforting, at least, to see that in there. And what was the other resolution you put up earlier, too? There was a second one that I think Mr. Lavin commented on. I can't remember. Wasn't there another? Oh, okay. Oh, all right. I couldn't read it when I was sitting back there. Sorry. The only other thing I want to add, and this is, it hasn't been talked about too much here tonight, but with the Boulevard Mall and the eminent domain action against the Pennies over there, I don't know what the status of that is. I guess it's on appeal to the Court of Appeals down in Albany or something. We keep hearing that it's a zero money proposition to the town, that the town will, assuming the town prevails in the lawsuit, they'll pay pennies, whatever the court determines pennies is due for the property. And then we're told that the property will just be turned around and somebody else will buy it. There's no obligation on the part of anyone to buy that property from the town. You try to give the impression sometimes that this is a done deal, that the town's going to get this property and then we're going to be made whole by somebody along the line. There's no obligation that I'm aware of under the law for anybody to buy that property for the town. We could be left holding the bag on it. We have no idea how many $1 million it's going to cost us to buy out JCPenney.
Hi, I'm Kathy Oliveri. I live on South Harvest Street in Williamsville. I normally don't speak in public, but I say a lot in private, so I figured I better open my mouth. Common sense question. All these new builds go up. I would love to see an audit. How many taxes you got in 23? What are all the new builds that came in? Where are those taxes? What's that total? And why, if we're having so many more new builds, taxes shouldn't have to go up? Because, like they were saying, cops don't go in, you don't add any more policemen, no highway. Fire hall really hasn't gone up any to disperse that. So where does all that money go? I don't get it. So like I said, I say that to my friends, so I figured I better be a big girl and say something in public. So thank you.
I'm getting old. There's $11 million that was a bond that our good friends over at Music Fair are going to pay back. That's a bad debt.
30 years.
Tom Weisbeck, 48 Roberts Court. I just want to, I found this on the internet about the total anticipating bonding through 2024 to 29. The total bonding is this is what I figure part of the reasons why, maybe you could tell me, I may be wrong, I'm not a financial wizard, but for the next 4 years, it's going to be $155 million. That's without the Boulevard Mall. So
CIP is aspirational. It does not reflect, the only year that you're committed to is the first year or the current year's time.
I missed that.
So there's a lot of placeholders. Different departments put a lot of different projects into the CIP in out years. It's a schedule of every department's anticipated or hopeful projects. But a lot of times the out years are just numbers or just rough budgets. So no.
So you got part of this funding for 2024. It says 61 million. That's that's no number. It doesn't mean anything.
The only number that is a hard number is the 24 number, and even that doesn't become a hard number until we actually issue bonds against it.
So when do we know how much we spend then? I'm just asking a question.
We go to borrow in the fall.
Pardon me?
We total our borrowing and we borrow in the fall. That's when we have our totals.
So none of these numbers out on these capital improvement?
If you look at the 2024 capital improvement plan, that is the current year's anticipated borrowing.
Of 61 million.
That's inclusive of a mall project. That's not, right?
It also includes grants and other funding sources. You didn't mention that.
Yeah, CIP is inclusive of all of our funding.
It's not just what we're bonding.
So as a town, we're not paying for all of this, you tell me?
$31 million is coming from the state.
I understand.
Right, that's included in that number.
Okay.
And any other grant that we receive, any other reimbursements, any other costs are included in that line total. So you have to look at it and you have to separate out just the bonding issues. And then again, it's just 24, that's an actual number.
Okay, so on this sheet, it says anticipated bonding for 2024 is 24 million.
That's about right.
Okay. So the next year it's 36 million.
That gets into non-real numbers. Once you get past the first year, everything else is just basically sum total of things that could happen.
So it's a guesstimate then, are these figures after this year? So if these figures say $36,918,000, that's just a guesstimate. It says without the mall demolition too.
Yeah, so everything in the out years are basically acts of fiction until you lock them into the 1 year. So in years past, that's a big number because we take every department's total and we put it in there. It's kind of like a giant wish list.
Okay.
But the 24 years, the year that you have to pay attention to.
So this total figure for all 4 years is not correct, totally correct then? Okay, so why is this published like this then? I mean, that's a different question. So, you know, I understand it. The hard number is just here.
In order to pursue a grant, you have to have it in your capital plan. So you can't ask for a grant against a project that's not in there. It doesn't mean you would do every project, right? Every project has a different blend of financing. And we put projects in there that aren't fully financed on bonds, right? They may show bonding, but we would like to ask for a grant for them.
Like like for Dan Lake Park in 2018, I mean 2028. So that's just a guesstimate of the funds there.
Tom, it's also to give you an idea of where we'd like to go. We're not necessarily going to vote on everything right now, but it's giving the public an idea of a publicly available document of things we're thinking about. So you have an idea, right? Yeah, just as he said. So you have an idea of what we're thinking about, but then you come here during public expression, we talk, we determine, and then we vote as it comes by. So it is our way of telling the public, these are the things we're thinking about these next 5 years. These are the things we might be pursuing.
But with this, all this money and the tax increase, what happens, that puts a lot of pressure on it. I mean, I'm retired. I mean, that's a tough thing for me.
There are two separate things. I understand what you're saying, but it's giving you the idea, and it may increase the tax levy if and when it's voted on years out. But it's just giving you the idea for right now. So we're not committed to anything beyond this year, as the supervisor said.
Okay.
John Traver, Mount Vernon Road. I just have one question. If you took Westwood Park out of the mix and didn't go forward with that, and if you did not go forward with the LED lights, would you have to raise taxes?
I'm not going to combine the two. If
Well, I
if
am.
not for the park, or if not for the streetlights.
Well, I'm combining them both because of the two major projects. So it's just a simple answer. I'm not even including the Boulevard Mall. What I'm talking about is pet projects, feel-good projects. If you take those two projects out of the mix, simply yes or no, would you have to raise taxes? I'll take that as a no.
I've gone.
Brian, is that one going to be answered at the end of the meeting?
Sure.
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah.
Dave Howard, 194 Roycroft Boulevard. Just a quick question. I was at Musical Fair recently, and I noticed that Amherst does support that facility up to $15,000. It was a range, 5 to 15, I believe. Are we going to go forward and still do that, or are we going to say, yeah, we're building you a building, you're not going to get funding from us from that anymore? Are you willing to do that?
Mr. Howard, you're referring to the sponsorship listing
Sponsorship.
program that lists the town of Amherst in the 5 to 15? Yeah. I don't know if we would or whatever, but that's what you're asking.
I mean, we're already giving them quite a bit from what I can see. I can't see where we should be giving them more. I mean, especially for 30 years, we shouldn't be doing anything. And just the other, real fast, I mean, I know you said we're supporting the musical fair building by like 8 million, and they were going to do 2.5 to 3.3. They already have 1.9 million. Why are we taking a short-term bond out, or I guess putting it in our budget that we could take it out, if they're supposedly supplying the money? I don't see why we're doing that when we shouldn't have to. They're supposedly funding that portion of the building. I mean, 11 million shouldn't be coming out of Amherst. Thank you.
I'm Grace Connor. Is this better? Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, I'm Grace Connor. I work early voting polling. Why do you have so many people? Saturday, 24 people voted. You had 4 workers. You had people working 8:30 in the morning to 6:30 at night. It's a waste of taxpayer dollars. Everybody there agreed.
Okay, we don't run the elections. That's done
You don't
by
run
Erie.
elections?
No, Erie County Board of Elections runs those.
Okay, then what early voting polling lease agreement are you talking about?
We signed a lease. Erie County Board of Elections is holding early voting at our senior center.
This was at the senior center.
They rent the facility from us to do that.
Okay.
Okay, I have,
I got to ask you about this street lighting thing on Resolution 2024-268 and 269. How much is it going to cost us more in our taxes by adding a new street lighting district?
I am planning to answer the second question that I have written down.
Pardon me?
That's the second question I have written down, so I am planning to address it.
Okay. Sounds great. Thank you.
Kathy Ecolina, Maple Road. Everybody's talking about this $11 million for musical fair. And looking on the town website, there's also additional costs like Area 1, the rec area, $15,450,000. The Winter Market, Area 2, $545,000. And Area 5, the museum, $10 million. There's Area 4 for the clubhouse, which is blank. With all this spending, this is really going to bankrupt the town. But I don't know, nobody cares. Just keep spending money.
Nicole Pohanchuk, Hosser Road. I hope the board understands when you brag that Kathy Hochul is giving us $31 million. She's not making that in the basement, just like you guys don't make money in the basement. That's our taxpayer money she's returning to us. She doesn't make it in her basement. It's our money. And I know a couple people have touched on this, but I don't believe the board has actually said this. They canceled the next 2 meetings. We don't meet for another 5 weeks.
I'll address exactly why that was.
So in those 5 weeks, wonder why someone could build another arts facility in Amherst without using taxpayer money, and Musical Fair can't do the same thing. Think about why Clarence has not raised their taxes in 10 years while this board in just the last 6 years has raised our taxes 33%. Then you have to wonder why we're moving Buffalo Niagara Historical Village, used to be known as Amherst Museum, until the former board made them become independent, and they got mad at us, so they took Amherst out of the name. And that's when they actually thrived. If anyone was there back in the 80s and go to the Amherst Museum now, they've really thrived on their own, and there's no reason to move them. The previous board that, if you saw Mr. Culpa's presentation the other day, he totally dogged them. But they were trying to save the taxpayer money and told the Amherst Museum, hey, we financially cannot support you 100% anymore. So that's when they became the 501c3. please just stop the nonsense. Just stop the spending. This is out of control. You have doubled the amount of bonds, which has increased how much interest rates that we've been paying. We're paying millions of dollars on that money that you're borrowing. We do not have the money. If you were to sell all the Amherst assets, you would barely have enough money left over to buy yourself a cup of coffee to pay off our bonds. This is out of control. Thank you.
I'm Charles Streichler. I live on Casey Road. And I had a friend coming back from Batavia the other day, and I had a question. Who's in charge of our trucks and stuff? Because he got passed by 2 Amherst code enforcement trucks that passed him when he's on the thruway. And when it's wonder, why is code enforcement from Amherst way the heck out in Batavia?
Anybody else?
Hi, my name's Kevin Lynch. I'm from Gettsville. I just have to say, this is the first time I've come to a town board meeting. I've lived in this town about 9 years and never really saw a need to get involved in town government. What I'm seeing now is a lot of excessive spending. I always thought a town was about providing essential services for the residents of that town. Safety, security, infrastructure. Okay, I'm seeing us providing streetlights for $33 million plus interest that I'm seeing other towns are getting at no cost or very low cost. And I'm wondering what the difference would be and why we felt generous. I'm seeing where we're spending $11 million on a theater company for a new building. I do set building for a nonprofit theater company. We struggle performance to performance to performance. What we make on this performance, we spend on the next one. We're in a town facility, not Amherst. And they don't provide us much help. I'd love if the town that we were in would give us $11 million. Just give it to us. You know, I don't even know what to say about that. It's crazy. But as a taxpayer in this town, we need to get back to providing essential services and not doling out money to nonprofits, okay? As much as I'd like the other town to give us money, I don't expect it from them. I don't make a backroom deal to get it from them. I'm grateful that we get to use their facility. We need new lights, we need new seats. You know, the walls, the ceiling, they just repaired the ceiling on the building. We have plaster falling down in the corner from where the water leaks were. And we just try and work around it because we're grateful for the space. Musical Fair, I don't know, I've never been to one of their performances. I hear they're wonderful. I hear Canterbury Wood's coming up. There is a theater company in there and they do wonderful things. You know, God bless you guys for giving them the money, but it's the wrong thing to do because it is not your money. We're paying for this. You all live in the town, I understand that. Your taxes all went up. One person's paying a lot less than everyone else because I looked. I'm just saying, this is taxpayer money and you need to get back to providing essential services, not all these handouts. Boulevard Mall, no. Developers, let them deal with it, okay? They have the money. Musical Fair, let them raise their own money. We try, we struggle, we raise what we can. Damon College with a playground, nobody's mentioned that one, but you're building them a soccer stadium for $10 million? How much is that? Can anybody answer that one? $10 million. What's Damon given us? $2.5 million that New York gave them? we got to get back to not spending this money. My taxes went up this year. You got to start thinking of the people. You didn't listen to a word they said tonight. Everybody said no to musical fair, and you went yes, 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 yes. It was decided, right? It was a done deal. Why'd you bother? Thank you for your time. I really don't get it, okay? I really don't get it.
Bob Dirtle, 92 Chateau Terrace. I came up here earlier with 6 questions about musical fair. You guys went ahead and voted on it without answering my questions. I know it's kind of naive for me to think that anything I could say might influence one of you to vote no, but I would have appreciated, and I'm sure these people would have appreciated, an answer to my questions before you voted on it. Thank you.
Motion to.
Just go.
Dennis for supervisor.
That's interesting. Who would want to inherit this mess? I mean, really. Because it is insane, you know? This one gentleman said that, you know, he pays all this stuff, you know, for fire protection and all this for the town, but he's never called 911. And I thought to myself, guy, he just hasn't gotten his tax bill yet, you know? But anyway, I know, a little levity. It helps, doesn't it, Brian? Look at the smile on Brian's face. I guess I was probably, maybe I was asleep a few years ago at the wheel, but the Westwood Country Club was bought. I could be wrong about some of these details, and so I wish somebody would just come up here and lay it out like I'm gonna, and say, okay, that's right, or you're wrong. But Mensch Partners bought it for, I believe, $2.8 million from the Westwood Country Club, okay, when they went defunct. Then what happened was they thought they paid too much for it. They found out there were contaminants in the ground, which I believe is true. And they wanted the town to reassess. And I think at the time, the current reassessor said 170 acres of land in the middle of the town of Amherst, and you paid $2.8 million? Are you kidding me? You know, the guy must have, you know, they must have thought that was funny, you know. But they wanted it reassessed, and of course, I don't know, I think they got rid of that reassessor. So they got a newer reassessor, and then they reassessed it for less money. So Mensch Partners got a deal, you know, on their taxes, right? I think I got this right so far, don't I? Maybe Jackie Berger can tell me. Just nod your head. Yep. Okay, thanks. And so, I know they won't. It's okay if they don't answer me. I don't care. I just don't. I'm like that guy at the Academy Awards. I just don't care anymore, you know. So anyway, then this really is baffling. Brian swoops in, right, and saves Mensch Partners and said, "Whoa, we know you paid $2.8 million for this thing, and we know that it's contaminated, but the town of Amherst will give you $8 million for it, you know." And I'm like, all right, 7.9 or whatever it was, you know, it basically comes to like $5 million. The town of Amherst residents gave Mensch Partners $5 million more than they paid for it after they had it declared a brown zone. I mean, maybe I should run for supervisor because, maybe I should run. If I gotta run against, listen, if I gotta run against these numbskulls, right? I'm telling you, I went for a tour at Westwood about a week ago with Mike, and Mike Zucala. Did I say that right? Yeah. Thank you. All right, all right. And my name's Hoban, Hoban.
Okay, thanks, Dennis.
And we went for a little tour there, and I walked around the clubhouse, and I really like Mike. You know, he's not a bad guy. I really don't think he's a bad person, you know?
Dennis, you're way over
And-
your time. Thank you.
Well, we're just talking here,
You're
you know?
way over your time.
Okay, I just need another 30 seconds.
Thank you, Dennis.
Well, all right. What we should have when we spend money like this is we should have a referendum, so the people can decide if they want to spend their tax money on this stuff, you know?
Thank you, Dennis. Dennis, please have a seat.
I
Thank
will.
you.
I'll see you in 5 weeks.
Please.
Okay.
Michelle Coglin, Harrogate Square. Mr. Copa and Board, I want you to hear my private story. My private story is I was recently diagnosed with stage 3 cancer, and I don't want your pity or your sympathy because I wouldn't take it from any of you. And I was going to retire in June so I could spend the rest of my life with my family and my friends. But because of you, I have to continue to work or we can't afford to eat because of your taxes. I hope to God, Mrs. Berger, that you pray to God and the rest of you to grow a conscience for what you are doing to myself, my family, and these people sitting here that are struggling to buy food because of you. I hope you can sleep tonight because I won't.
I'm not going to introduce myself. The fact that you voted on that tonight without taking into consideration, even if you just tabled it and actually went home and thought about it. How many of you have been to a musical fair production? Anybody? No. Okay, maybe a few residents? You're saving big corporations. You're saving non-for-profits. You're not saving your citizens. Her story is not the only story that I've heard where people have come up and said that their life is being affected. Brian Culpa, your life's not being affected because you have 3 other jobs. Jackie, I don't even know what you do besides tap Brian Culpa's hand. Mr. Lavin, you have the benefits from the military and you work for polling cars. You're not suffering. I don't even know what you do because you're irrelevant. Angela, I applaud you for speaking up tonight, but I'm not gonna deny that I'm disappointed that you voted yes on this. And even though you said that your vote I may not always agree with, I understand, but I know that you have a conscience, and I know that you knew for that second that you thought about it, you knew it wasn't the right vote. Listen to your heart. Don't listen to these 4.
Motion to close public expression.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, now that we're out of public expression, I am going to answer a couple of questions. Regarding the 2 new streetlight districts, or the 2 additions to the street lighting district, from all the new developments, any new development that has street lighting associated with it, the street lights are paid for by the developer. It was a policy this town board put in place. So those street lights are being put in at the developer's cost. The projects are expanding the streetlight district, so there is more tax volume or more tax dollars going into the overall streetlight district moving forward. Regarding the zoning board of appeals,
Wait, before you move on from that, We only voted today for the streetlight districts to open the public hearing. So there will be additional time to respond on the public hearing, so we did not, yeah.
The question was, what are they doing? And we are not providing the hardware. The Zoning Board of Appeals regarding coffee shop at Sheridan and Mill, I'm not sure if that's right. I thought it was the planning board that had the coffee. CBA did? So I don't know how exactly they acted. I am worried about that specific location. As a Mill parent, I would like to see a street light at Mill to assist in student, when kids come into school and out of school. I think that it's getting dangerous. I'm not sure, it's not the best location for that particular, for drive-through, but that's not ultimately this town board's call. Practice, I had, regarding piggybacking, New York State allows for piggybacking on contracts, especially state contracts or other municipal or public contracts. Most of the time we do check in terms of whether we could get a better value or whether we can get a better value if we piggyback with a bigger institution, which is why we have piggybacking. Regarding, I'm trying to read through here. Regarding a couple of the fire district tax, I kind of addressed this when the gentleman spoke. The last attorney had an opinion that any change in fire district would require referendum. Something that we'll refer to our legal office again, but it makes it extremely hard. We do have 10 different fire districts in the town. 2 of those are fire districts that are independent, and they tax independently with commissioners, and that's Snyder and Eggertsville. The rest of them are town contract through volunteer companies. Regarding the SRO forces were plus officers. They weren't internal positions. They may have been filled by people who asked for a change, but they were actual plus officers. They were additional. Regarding the emergency resolution, there was an R22 leak. We had to repair that. We did get 3 quotes. We went with the lowest quote for R22, but we needed R22. Moving forward, we're hoping to get our chillers off of R22. We do have a NYSERDA grant to replace the chiller on the feature rink. That's currently the first of the 4 that are scheduled. Regarding the contamination, DEC contaminant, so my understanding is we have the draft document, but we haven't posted it to the website, as our consultants have not finalized it or have not gotten it finalized. It will post to the website as soon as it is finalized. Regarding the let's see. Regarding the expense carry on musical fair, we are doing the short-term borrowing, and that's really we're allowing ourselves to short-term borrow if we have to deal with cash flow issues. It's cash flow through construction. It is a 2-year project. So again, we have to go by advice of bond counsel. We certainly didn't want to leave it short with cash flow. That's the need, and that's why we're borrowing up front for the payback. They do have 1.9 million commitments, yes. Again, this is coming from our bond counsel, who's factored everything that we have to do in order to complete the project. Regarding the I don't even know where to start. Regarding the Boulevard Mall project, the goal is to have front-end agreements with developers to purchase land before we sell or before we would ever take ownership of property. So in other words, we would have the disposition worked out contractually with money in escrow before we would ever actually handle a purchase. Regarding the CIP issues, I've already answered that question. As far as grants for the park, Again, the CIP outlays a series of projects. The goal has always been to try to make sure that we get a third of the funding covered by grants and not just bonding. So as far as the park goes, you know, the goal there is to cover with grants. Regarding the code enforcement being out of the area, there's training that happens in Albany. My guess is that they were on their way to that. We have to continuously have our code enforcement officers recertified, and they have to go through continuous training on state code. Regarding the park, Royal Park project, it's a town facility. We have ball diamonds that need to be renovated or turned into something. The town is electing to do a project. Damon is an add-on because they'll be leasing the space from us at times, just like other colleges rent time at our Northtown Center. And the same goes for Musical Fair. It's a town building. Musical Fair is renting time there. I thank you all, and I'll motion to adjourn. Oh, the last thing is the canceled meeting. So we did cancel the April 8th meeting. It is the date of the eclipse. Erie County put out a state of emergency. We are sending our staff home at midday because there is an anticipated surge of over 1 million people into the county. Many municipalities are doing the same. With that, I'm going to motion to adjourn. Thank you all.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.